We're back at it again, and this time we're taking a look at the Stabbomancer skill tree. If you like melee or running and gunning, this guy is going to be for you. On the left you can see the character model, and keep in mind you can fully customize this dude. In this Wonderlands demo, this is the guy we got set up with, and obviously I would love to change the head and skin and all that good stuff, but yeah, you can definitely change the look later on. On the right we have the one skill tree. That's right, one skill tree. Each of these 6 classes in this game only gets one skill tree, and then later on you can add a second one. And I know a lot of people might be bummed out about that, not getting 3 skill trees like the previous games, but for this game they take a different approach in which you can multi-class and mix and match any skill tree from any other character. With there being 6 characters, that means a total of 30 skill tree combinations can be made. That is a pretty good amount, and there's going to be a lot of synergy happening between different skills. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into these skills. This guy doesn't have a pet or anything, but you do get a default class bonus here, and that is known as Dirty Fighting. The Fatemaker's critical hit chance is increased. Increased critical hit chance, 30%. Oh, also these Stabbomancer skills rely on critical hit damage a lot too. Each character gets 2 action skills, so once you can multi-class with the second character later in the game, you're going to have a total of 4, but you can only select one at a time, but you can switch off whenever you want. For the first one, and my personal favorite, is Ghostblade. The Fatemaker throws out a Ghostblade which spins in place, dealing melee damage periodically to nearby enemies based on the Fatemaker's equipped melee weapon. Pressing action skill while Ghostblade is active causes it to teleport to the targeted location, and reduces the remaining duration by a small percentage. Reposition penalty, -5% of max duration. Melee damage, 75% of melee weapon. Melee weapon frequency, same as melee weapon. Duration, 16 seconds, and cooldown 37 seconds. Alright, so the Ghostblade is basically a flying version of your melee weapon. In this case we have the Flat Blade of the Assassin, 39 damage, attack speed 1.34. So it's going to factor in all those attributes to your spinning Ghostblade. So we'll summon it in, and right there it's not really hitting because he moved away. So we can move it around, but look at my duration. As you move it, it will be going down, so you got to take that into consideration. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can just move a melee weapon and fly it around and take care of your airborne enemies if you're doing a full melee build. Because obviously, I mean, swinging a melee weapon at a flying enemy like this, that's not really going to work out the best. So it is good to have an alternative to doing melee damage for your flying enemies. So yeah, Ghostblade's going to be amazing for your melee builds. Moving on here, we have the second action skill from the shadows. Keeping it simple, this is just like Flag's Fade Away from BL3 with Gorillas in the Mist. It says here, the Fatemaker enters stealth, turning invisible. While in stealth, all damage dealt is automatically a critical hit, but critical hits deal reduced damage. Critical hit damage, -25%. Duration, 8 seconds, and cooldown, 36 seconds. Alright, let's show it off. So we'll pop the Fade Away, or from the shadows. Sorry, it's like the exact same thing, so it's really hard to call it differently. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it is good for getting around in a stealthy way, and you get those automatic critical hits, so it might be good for synergizing with some other skills in the game. For the first skill, we have Arsenal. Very straightforward skill, so you get increased melee damage, spell damage, and gun damage. Depending on how many points you put in the skill, the bonus will be higher. Keep in mind too, you can boost your skills by putting on different armor pieces, so you can see here we get bonuses for those certain skills. So you can boost it over 5 points, make it 6 out of 5 or 7 out of 5, stuff like that, and that will give you a higher damage bonus. For the second skill we have Haste. Melee attack speed is increased and movement speed is increased. Also, when the Fatemaker casts a spell, this bonus is doubled for a duration. Per point, movement speed 4%, melee attack speed 4%, duration 12 seconds. Now, I do want to explain it again because the melee stuff in this game is quite different, but the attack speed on your melee weapon is quite important. So, attack speed 1.34. You can see here I swing, I can hold down the melee button and swing over and over, and that's as fast as I can melee. But if I put more points into that skill, we can melee a little bit faster, and also move faster too. Potent Poisons. Status effect damage increased, and status effect duration increased too. Damage by 4% per point, and duration 8% per point. Damage over time in this game is going to be quite important, so boosting these kind of skills are going to help your build a lot. Also, melee weapons can be elemental too, so you can have like a fire hammer or a shock sword. So boosting your damage over time is going to be huge for your melee builds too. And of course your guns. For tier 2 skills, we have Follow Up. Whenever the Fatemaker deals gun damage to an enemy, the Fatemaker's next melee attack deals increased damage. This effect can stack. Melee attacks consume all stacks, melee attack damage 2%, and max stacks 10. That's only for 1 point, but you can boost it higher. And this skill seems to be for your hybrid kind of build, doing gun damage and melee damage. The best of both worlds. Swift Death. While moving, the Fatemaker gains increased damage dealt. The faster they move, the greater these bonuses. Damage dealt, 10% at default walk speed. That is 10% with 5 out of 5 on the skill. 1 point is actually coming from my armor piece, so I only have 4 points in that skill, but the armor adds 1 more point to that skill. So basically, the faster you move, the more damage you get, and it's very similar to Borderlands 3 Zane's, what is that one skill called? Violent Momentum, so you run around and you shoot for more damage. And I did a few tests, and this does apply for your melee and spell damage too, not just gun damage. This skill will be great for pretty much all builds. Moving on here, Exploit Their Weakness. Whenever the Fatemaker applies a status effect to an enemy, the affected enemy takes increased damage from all sources for its duration. This effect can stack per unique status effect. Damage increase 2%. So with 3 out of 3 on that skill, you're going to get a damage increase of 6%. Again, that is per status effect, so if you apply 4 status effects, you're going to get, 24% bonus damage. Like I mentioned earlier, damage over time in this game is going to be very important. For tier 3, we have the Nimble Fingers. Whenever the Fatemaker deals melee damage, their fire rate and spell damage are increased for a duration. Fire rate 6%, spell damage 8%, duration 8 seconds. Yeah, I can definitely see some good synergies using that. Shadow Step. This is a kill skill, so when you get a kill, the Fatemaker's next melee attack is a guaranteed critical hit for a short duration. Now, this is only a demo, so I haven't been able to experience like a full-blown melee build, but if you think about it, if we can get to the point in which we can get one-hit melee attacks, you can chain this critical hit melee strike over and over for massive damage. Not even just that, like if you get a strong, maybe Jacob Sniper for one-shots, you can follow up with a melee attack, and that's definitely going to help. In quotations, the modest, unkindest cut of all. We know that Gearbox likes to add little quotes into the game, and I'm not sure what that references to, so if you guys know that quote from somewhere, be sure to comment that below. Anyways, duration 6 seconds. For tier 4, we have Sneak Attack. Critical hit damage is increased, and you can see there, critical hit damage 3%. At the moment, we can't see how many skill points we can put into a skill unless you unlock that skill, but I am curious of how many points you can put into the skill, and hopefully they will fix that in the future. Either way, 3% is a very small bonus, so I'm assuming it's a 5-point skill. Elusive. The Fatemaker can now shoot and sprint at the same time. The Fatemaker also gains an increased chance to evade incoming damage while moving. The faster they move, the greater the bonus. In quotations, no lime tangerine. I don't know, maybe you guys know. Evasion, 10% of default walk speed. Obviously, we've seen this skill quite a few times in the series. We saw it in the pre-sequel with Wilhelm, and also in BL3, Zane could do it, Mose could do it, but it also has a combination of Zane's like a ghost skill to dodge attacks. One thing I am curious about with this skill is if you can run and swing your melee weapon at the same time too. On the card, it does say shoot and sprint, it doesn't say anything about melee or casting spells while running too. Hopefully you can. If not, it's still going to be a great skill regardless, and I will definitely be picking that up. Contagion. Whenever the Fatemaker applies a status effect, there's a chance to spread it to nearby enemies. If no enemies are nearby, apply a different random status effect to the initial enemy instead. I think it means it will apply another status effect to that single enemy. It's just a small typo, I'm sure it's going to get fixed. Anyways, spread chance 8%, new status effect damage 50% of the applied status effect damage. So you can already see synergy here, a contagion applied with the Exploit Their Weakness skill. That's going to be 2 status effects on an enemy using only 1 element, and you're going to get more damage. Very cool. For tier 5, we have 1,000 Cuts. Maybe it's a coincidence, but the 1,000 Cuts was a map in Borderlands 2 also, so it might be a reference. Critical hits grant increased damage dealt for a duration. This effect can stack. Melee critical hits grant additional stacks. Damage dealt 0.2% per stack. Duration 12 seconds, and max stacks 25. Like I said, critical hits are going to be a major part of his playstyle, so combine that with the From the Shadows action skill, you're going to be able to stack this skill up very, very fast. Alchemical Agent. Melee critical hits apply a random status effect. In quotations, no means too venomous. Status effect damage, 10% of melee damage dealt. Boom, another synergy, so this skill plus your melee damage stacking, plus your damage over time, plus your debuffing, yeah, there's just so much you can combine here. Ridiculous. And I never mentioned it either, but all of these skills, plus moving faster, plus, if you move faster, you get more damage, everything just synergizes. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, for the capstone, we have Executioner's Blade. Gun and spell critical hits have a chance to create an ethereal blade above the target that will impale them after a short delay. Ethereal blades deal melee damage based on the Fatemaker's equipped melee weapon. In quotation, talking of axes, chance 20%, damage 100% of the melee weapon. That sounds like a lot of fun, and it's cool that we're getting extra options for our melee builds. Melee is going to be quite different in this game, but you're still going to have your up-close hack and slash fun with your melee weapons, and I don't think that these extra effects are going to take away from the melee builds. You guys know me, I was never a fan of the melee builds in Borderlands 3. To me, it felt weird that you could shoot melee with the face puncher, or toss a grenade to do melee damage, or nova a shield to do melee damage. It just didn't feel like true melee. In this game, it's all about being up close to the enemy. And of course, you have your Ghostblade to throw at the enemy too. Anyways, I think that's going to be everything to tell about the Stabbomancer skill tree. In summary, this is going to be your run and gunner with melee, critical hit damage, and a damage over time kind of playstyle. Definitely a lot of fun, and from my playtime in this demo, he is going to be my starter character. No doubt about it. Anyways, be sure to let me know below in the comments what you guys think about the Stabbomancer. Is he going to be your starter character, or are you going to multi-class with him later on? I'd like to know. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and of course, if you did, then please be sure to leave a like, because that'd be awesome. And if you guys really enjoyed it, be sure to sub. You guys have a great day, and I will see you all later. Peace out.